welcome guys. How are you?
Good.
All right, thank you for coming. I know it's cold and rainy and all that good stuff, but the fact that you guys are sitting in these seats, I'm pretty sure what you're going to hear today can change your life. Not only your life, but your future generation's life, your friends, your family members, loved ones, those types of things. We all know real estate is probably the #1 investment you could ever get in your life. And my name is Mike Bjorkman. I'm from Santa Clarita originally. I got into real estate in 1991, right out of high school. So it's been a little bit of time. I can't add that up. Did anybody add that up? Was that 28 years, 27 years, something like that? And my specialty when I got into real estate was working with first-time home buyers because I was young, right? And I was dealing with a lot of people that I went to high school with, and it was just such a great time to invest into Santa Clarita. You guys might remember 1994, what happened out here? Little earthquake. So there was a lot of good investment opportunities right after that. And then we went through a couple of recessions, things like that. So I've watched the market go up and down. And one thing I know that it didn't matter when anybody bought or sold. If they bought when it or sold when it was high, they probably bought again, right? They probably didn't just sell. And then people that ended up holding on to their properties ended up doing really good. Santa Clarita is probably one of my favorite places for investing in rental property, investment property. Sometimes people say, I don't want to live in a house. I cannot believe that just happened. I don't want to live in a house. I still want to rent, but I do want to invest in real estate, because what's better than having somebody else pay a house payment off for you, right? So it's pretty amazing stuff to do. So we are Team Bjorkman. We work at eXp Realty. There's probably 10 of us on our team, something like that. We'll go in a little bit later why a team is so important. We are some of the top agents in the entire country, and some of the tips and tricks we give you tonight is going to show you why we are, and we're going to talk a little bit about what makes us different than most real estate agents. Does everybody in here know a real estate agent besides who invited you here? Yeah? There's probably more people with real estate licenses than driver's license. And what that means to us is we have to be careful, right? We have to know who we're dealing with, why we're dealing with those people. Experience matters, heart, soul matters, all those good things. So we appreciate you being here. I'm gonna jump in a little bit. So I gave you, well, I might as well talk about, tonight we're gonna hear from a CPA, my CPA, my trusted advisor, our mortgage broker, who is obviously the most important part of the transaction next to the actual transaction itself of picking out a house. So that's Keith Breno from Wintrust Mortgage. Thank you guys for being here. A couple other sponsors we'll introduce and thank a little bit later. Just want to make sure this is working. So we have a buyer's roadmap, and most buyers kind of know how this process goes. We're going to get pre-approved, we're going to search for homes, negotiate and do the contract, our final details, meet with real estate. This is all basic stuff. And it seems like, well, as long as I know this process, I can get it figured out. Maybe with the help of Google, it'll help me get through it a little bit better too. But as we dissect and break these things down, we're going to show you how you can save time, effort, money, and actually do things that other buyers don't have the opportunity to, and get the actual education and not just push you through a process that may seem uncomfortable. Is anybody in here ever a little bit nervous about buying a home? You know, you don't want to make any mistakes. You kind of go, I don't know if I could trust the mortgage people. I don't know if I could trust my CPA. I don't know if I could trust the real estate agent. Well, we want to make sure all that pain is taken away from you tonight. Wow. Keith, you look good there, buddy. Normally we have screens that are like half this size. I feel like I'm dealing with a movie theater. So what we're going to do tonight is go through the process. First, we're going to hear from Keith. We're going to listen to some of the mortgage benefits and actually how to go through that process. When you were invited here tonight, there was probably a couple things, or if you saw an ad on Facebook or something, a couple things that I want to point out that's really important. With credit, and Keith will go over a little bit about it, we can, you guys ever heard of California Leasing, our sister company? Anybody? So we run a pretty stringent background check and credit check on people, and based on lending guidelines, would you believe it's easier to buy a home from us than it is to rent a home from us with credit? So we can have all kinds of different things, and I asked Keith tonight to also talk about how you can use 401ks, you can get gifts from relatives, things like that. So it's pretty fantastic. So you guys, welcome to the stage. Keith, right up with me.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know how many slides you got, but you can click through them.
Yeah.
I'll come hang out over here for you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, buddy.
Thanks for having me, and thank goodness for good airbrushing, especially the size of that photo. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, guys, and share some information that we know, I know, and Team Bjorkman knows is really valuable and really impact families and folks in a tremendous way. So I want to share with you guys kind of the 3 key elements as far as what goes into financing, what goes into a mortgage. I know talking about mortgages isn't all that exciting, and we're talking about a cost and a monthly payment, but like Mike touched on, mortgages lead to being able to purchase real estate, and still holds true that real estate is the #1 wealth creator that we have in the US. More millionaires have been created through real estate and real estate investing, whether it's buying an owner-occupied home or other investing like Mike was talking about, than any other format. And since we have a bit more intimate group, if someone has a question or something's jumping out, please raise your hand, speak up.
Are you single?
Very. All right, so the 3 key components here. So we have credit, income, and down payment. And how these 3 items relate to one another is what will determine mortgage options. So with credit in general, we're looking at the credit score. We're also looking at credit history and obligations. When we say obligations, really we're just referring to the minimum monthly payments that folks have in their credit report. So maybe an automobile loan, maybe an auto lease, but we're not looking at things that are not on the credit report, like a cell phone payment or utilities, things of that nature. So things that are tied to a property, things that are going to be on your credit report, that's what we're looking at as far as minimum obligations. Income, we'll touch more on income as we go here, but really we're looking what's the source of someone's income, what's the history of someone's income, and then can we reasonably project some stability and where that income for an individual might be headed. And then we look at down payment, and really when it comes to down payment or where the fund's coming from, there's a lot of really great ways that you can use 401k money, or gift funds are allowed on really most programs out there nowadays. The sourcing of the funds, we just know where the money came from. So a large cash deposit or how the ordinary transfer, we just need to be able to explain and maybe document that. But really there's a lot of options and opportunity when it comes to down payment. So getting into things in a little bit more detail here. So minimum credit requirement, and you'll see advertisements from us mortgage individuals, minimum credit anywhere from 580, maybe you'll see some folks out there that will advertise, say 620, but typically low 600s or upper 5s is say the benchmark in terms of credit. So really flexible. It's kind of rare that I'll have someone in my office and will pull below a 580 score. Most folks, even when they're sharing with me on the phone or I'm talking with them, my credit's terrible, I've had this, that, and the other thing going on in the past, and then we'll run their credit, and they're typically over 580 from the start. And then we have a lot of tools and resources that can show and educate folks, and so some tips and tricks on what they may be able to do to bring up their score. So maybe bringing up their score will put them in a position where they can qualify, or perhaps put you in a position where you can get a better loan product or interest rate, just a slightly lower cost loan overall. But really lenient when it comes to credit score. And then like Mike was touching on, when it comes to collections, we allow them. We allow collections, we allow former late payments or past late payments, bankruptcies in the past, those are allowed, short sales, foreclosures, all allowed with the proper timing. And the timing is not 7 years or 10 years or some extended time frame that I sometimes hear. We're talking a lot of these things like a collection, late payment, but there's no waiting periods on those whatsoever. A bankruptcy, a short sale, a foreclosure, a little bit of a waiting period, but we have options with as little as 12 months. There's some additional products and programs that will come into the market as that time frame gets a little further out. But typically just a few years from bankruptcy, short sale, foreclosure, there's a lot of really great opportunities that are in the market. So never too early to ask and see where you stand. Don't let credit be something that holds you up, or if you hear of someone, credit's the reason why I'm not looking into my options. That's the one thing that we can work on, and typically folks are a little better off than they anticipate. I touched on this, so I can provide a plan and help you position your credit. So again, once we run credit, then we have a lot of tools and resources where we can do a deeper dive and run a few different analysis to show if certain actions are taken or certain things are maneuvered on a credit report, how that might impact score and what that does to someone's buying power. All right, when it comes to income, so flexible products and programs. So I'll share, usually when we can provide documentation on income, we're going to open ourselves up to a wider array of products and programs that are out there, or sometimes better terms on some of the programs that are out there. So typically when it comes to documentation, we're just looking for pay stubs, W-2, maybe a past tax return, showing some bank statements. So just really, basic evidence as far as what maybe you made last year and what someone's making year to date is typically what we're trying to show. For self-employed individuals, there's a lot of great programs, a lot of great opportunity that's coming back in the market. We're seeing programs for self-employed individuals get a little looser, or just more programs becoming available. Right now, very common where we only need 1 year of tax returns. So, for folks, maybe they're kind of right on the bubble qualifying, they're self-employed, but they're just not showing as much income as they may need on the tax return. We have a lot of folks by maybe showing the income that's necessary, maybe not getting quite as aggressive on write-offs. Maybe their profitability is a little higher, particular year. If they file that 1 year return, we can fit them into really all the traditional programs that are out there. We also have bank statements. So just talking to a gentleman a little earlier, so bank statements. We don't need to show tax returns. We can go off of bank statements. So if someone is running a business and they have good deposits that are coming in on a monthly basis, but once they're filing tax returns, they're taking certain write-offs and deductions that are that they're allowed to take. Going through the bank statements, if we have a higher monthly income there, we can use that. And then some other items I'll touch on. There are some stated products that are coming back in the market. Typically when you're getting into the stated options, you're going to require to have a larger down payment. So, if you're concerned as far as your self-employed and income or a bank statement program, maybe stated, you're thinking would be a better fit for you, something for us to talk about. There are some opportunities there. But then there's also a lot of really cool and unique ways for us to derive income, whether it's through asset depletion. So maybe someone has some funds set aside that we can use to derive a monthly income from. Retirement income, royalties, trust income. There's a lot of, typically a lot of items or sources of income that we can pull from someone's tax return. So sometimes looking at tax returns is a really good thing. What I share with folks is like, let me see all the pieces to the puzzle, then I can figure out what's going to make the most sense and how we can best structure things. All right, so down payment. So really want to, so 100% financing still available. And this is very true, and if not 100% financing, there's some very minimum down payment options. So minimum to zero down. So conventional financing is probably the most popular loan program in the market. Conventional financing here in Los Angeles County, you can purchase with as little as 3% down, and that would be to a loan amount as high as $484,000. So on, say, a $500,000 home, 3% down, about $15,000 would be, say, the minimum on a standard conventional loan. On a jumbo loan, which are typically loans that are in that $700,000 to $800,000 range in today's market, the minimum down payment only 5%. With FHA financing, which FHA 3.5% down, and that allows to a loan amount as high as $726,000. So, all the way up to about $726,000, there's options with 3 to 5% down. So really cool stuff there. With the VA financing, so for our veterans, or if you happen to know a veteran, 100% financing, in my opinion, the VA loan is the best loan product and program we have. It's 100% financing, no mortgage insurance, some of the best interest rates out there. If you're eligible for the VA loan, or again, know someone, it's really a worthwhile benefit. And then USDA financing. So USDA financing is another 100% down option. USDA financing is supposed to be for rural housing. Going up the 14 here, there's some areas that qualify, and right now, actually west of the 5 freeway, there's some areas that still qualify as we get into Castaic and a little bit further north. So if you're looking, kind of up to 14, around the 5, there's still some opportunities for 100% financing. And this is something that I don't think will be around too much longer, so there's opportunity there. Down payment and closing cost assistance. So these programs, there's actually some programs that are coming back in the market, or some programs that were in the market that have been revamped and are much, much more beneficial. So for an example, down payment closing cost assistance, you can get 3 to 4% towards your down payment, and then another 3 to 4% for paying closing costs. It's like we have a customer that just opened up escrow on a property. It's a $480,000 home. They're going to walk into that home with $4,000 out of pocket. You know, about 1%, actually a little bit less than 1%. And on that particular transaction, if we had the seller contribute towards some closing costs, which is allowed, and something I'll touch on, then that buyer could have walked into that property with no money out of pocket. So, you know, technically it's a down payment and there's assistance, but in terms of that buyer, I mean, pretty much 100% financing, or very, very minimal out of pocket.
What was the mortgage for that particular?
Yeah, great question. The mortgage payment?
Mortgage payment, yeah.
The mortgage payment on that one, they were with tax, insurance, and there's a small HOA on the property. They were in the low threes. Okay. I think I want to say they're like 32, maybe 3,300 on that one. These folks were actually renting a few doors down, so similar property, square footage, everything, and they were paying 2,800 in rent. I know we'll talk about some rent versus own stuff, but when we ran all the numbers for them and fixing their cost of living and paying down a mortgage and all the other benefits, it really made sense. And that's what we find with a lot of folks, you know, folks that are potentially renting or paying the rent what they'd be looking to, say, buy that same property. When we're running the numbers, you know, overall cost of living, paying down a mortgage, future appreciation, just the overall wealth building factors, and then again, fixing your cost of living, you can make it your own, all that non-monetary stuff. You know, for most folks, it's really making sense to buy rather than rent. Gift funds. So Mike touched on this. The gift funds allowed. There's very few programs out there right now that limit gift funds, or that say that gift funds aren't allowed. So 100% of the down payment, 100% of closing costs can be gifted. So from a family member, you know, mom, dad, significant other, gift funds absolutely allowed. Pulling from retirement account, and I put my own little 2 cents in there to invest in real estate. So I'm not saying pull from retirement account to go buy a boat or to go buy some sort of depreciating asset, but I think folks that are pulling from a retirement account to buy their home, especially their primary home, you know, running the numbers, in most cases, I find that has really made sense, and I've been able to be involved with a few customers and financial planners and their accountants, and you know, more times than not, we've seen that really makes sense. We have some folks that sometimes will share, well, I don't want to pull from a retirement account, that's for retirement, I don't want to pull from our 401k, but oftentimes when you're pulling from that type of source, you're paying back yourself with your pre-tax dollar. So when we get into the numbers as far as affordability and the opportunity it provides, when you're now going to be, you know, paying down a mortgage, having additional tax benefits, receiving the future, you know, appreciation, you can make it your own, a landlord's not going to kick you out, you fixed your cost of living, we'll look at all the other benefits, you know, really it's made sense, and this has allowed people to buy much sooner than later. And when we're in an environment where I think rates are ticking up, home prices are ticking up, if you have the opportunity to make something happen sooner than later, especially the last couple of years, we've seen that really be a benefit to folks. Seller can pay closing costs and pay to buy down your interest rate. So the seller in a transaction in today's market can pay all of your closing costs. So if you are required to put down a down payment, that can be potentially your only out of pocket. And then a seller can even pay the standard cost and provide funds above and beyond to buy down the interest rate. And I think that there's some opportunity that we're seeing in the market for that stuff to happen. So the seller, or buyer, excuse me, has their down payment, maybe they have some funds to pay costs, but we can still get a little credit back from the seller to where now maybe we can buy down someone's interest rate. I'll touch on interest rates here in a second, but I think if we can lock in a really low, almost next to historic lows on a 30-year fixed mortgage right now, I see that there's a lot of opportunity and a great time to take advantage of that. Options to avoid mortgage insurance. This is one of the quite common questions that I get asked. You know, I don't have 20% down, I don't want to pay $300, $400, $500 in mortgage insurance. When it comes to options, there's a lot of options out there that do not have mortgage insurance with less than 20% down. And a big misconception is that mortgage insurance is not all that expensive. It's actually become much more affordable over the last 3 to 5 years. So where folks sometimes think, oh, mortgage insurance, it's going to cost $300, $400, and we run the numbers, and it's $100, maybe $200. It's not nearly as expensive as they were anticipating. So there's pros and cons when it comes to mortgage insurance and putting down less than 20%, and that's a part of what I help go over and educate educate my clients as far as what would make the most sense for them. But again, a lot of really great options with less than 20% down. And an extended rate lock. So when we're in an environment where we're probably going to see interest rates start to tick up, if you can, maybe more so applies to new construction, but if you can find yourself in escrow sooner than later, you have the opportunity to lock in the rate even if the home might not be built or you might not be actually closing for some time down the road. There's a lot of nice programs out there where you can lock in the rate for as long as a year actually, and hedge against rates going up. All right, interest rates. So a fun little chart here, and this is from Freddie Mac. So in the US, there's really two major sources of financing. There's Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. So this is a survey done by Freddie Mac. So it's not a mortgage company or not numbers that I put together. But this is kind of today's interest rates. And what we're seeing right now, where interest rates are in the mid to upper 4s. We've seen interest rates come down actually pretty significantly, almost 0.5% in the past 30, almost 45 days. My prediction is that we're going to see rates, and what Freddie Mac is predicting is we're going to see rates gradually tick up throughout this year. I think once the stock market regains some confidence with what's going on with the trade wars, the government shutdown. Anyone follow stocks? Pay attention a little bit? All right, so if notice in the last 30, 45 days, we saw a pretty sharp decline in stocks. That's helped our interest rates. I think once there's some confidence that's regained back in the stock market, we'll see a fairly quick swing upwards in the stock market, and that's going to hurt interest rates. That will cause interest rates to rise. And I can go into much more data on that, but I'll spare you all the boring details. But I feel like this is a real accurate prediction. Where in the first quarter, we'll probably be closer to 5%. That's kind of where we were mid-2018. So in this past year, we kind of got to that 5% range. We've come back down a bit. But again, once that confidence in the stock market picks back up, we'll probably see things go closer to that 5% range. And as we get through 2019, get to the low 5s, 5.25, maybe 5.375. So I share that because I sometimes hear folks tell me, well, 5% sounds really high. And I have to remind folks that in the last 30 years, the average interest rate is 6.57. So to catch something with a 4 in front of it, phenomenal. With a 5 in front of it, still really, really good. On the mortgage side of things, under 6% historically has been deemed to be a very low interest rate. I think from here, we'll see things gradually tick up. And this is actually a chart just over the last 45 years. You'll hear from maybe parents or grandparents when they purchased and they had interest rates of 12 to 18%, where things got real wild there in the 80s. But that average over the last 45 years is about 7%. And again, the last 30 years, not that long of a time frame, 6.57. So again, 4 or 5%, still really, really low, and I think we'll see things gradually tick up and be low 5s this year, probably mid 5s the year after that, and I think in the next 5 years we'll probably be closer to 6%. So again, opportunity if you can get in sooner than later, certainly offers more affordability. And that's what I wanted to show here. So this seems like a lot of numbers, but to keep this real straightforward, this is say a 4.5%, maybe not too far off where we are right now. And this is interest rates going up in 0.25% increments. So 4.5, and then let's just say 5.5. So what this is displaying here is if you're getting a 4.5 rate and on a $400,000 mortgage and your payment there is $2,026, if interest rates go up, say a full percent, what you would need to be buying that same property for to keep that same monthly payment, which is 10% less. So instead of being at $400,000, you would need to be buying that property at 10% less, which is $360,000, to keep relatively that same monthly payment. And in this market, I think we're going to see this go the other way. I think we're going to see rates gradually tick up, but I think we're going to see home prices over here. So the affordability, it's going to become more expensive the longer we wait. And this gives in my opinion, a kind of a real life and accurate example for Santa Clarita. So what I wanted to show here, and on a side note, Core Logic, which is one of the biggest surveyors of kind of mortgage data and housing data, and like last year, they predicted that home prices across the US would increase 5.5% in 2018. They increased 5.6%. And they've been really accurate. They've been very good with their predictions year over year for the last many, many years. They're predicting that on average across the US, home prices are going to go up 4.7%. So I think where the media is sometimes getting it wrong is they're talking about that home prices are going down, that there's some sort of bubble. I think there's a big difference between home prices going down and us not seeing as much appreciation as we've seen in the past. But a big, big difference, and still a major wealth creator seeing a 3 to 5% appreciation year over year, and that's normal in a really healthy real estate market. So what this shows here is if we have someone buying a house $500,000, which I think we can agree out here, $500,000 medium home price in the ballpark. So $500,000 purchase, buying with say an interest rate about today's rate, 4.8%. They would have a principal and interest, so the actual mortgage payment would be $2,623. Now here, this is someone waiting the full year, so the home price has increased 4.7%, and we've seen an increase in interest rate of 0.5%. So like that previous slide, we were projecting that towards the end of 2019, we'd probably be closer to that 5.3%. So now that turns that monthly payment into $2,907, or a difference there of $283. So $283 a month, we're talking about $3,404 a year, and over a course of a 30-year term, over $100,000. So if the opportunity is there to do something sooner than later, I think that's where we're going to allow ourselves the savings here in the long run. And then this one here, before I turn it over to Bill, our accountant, we'll go into some more detail on some things. But I found this to be very interesting. This was I think a really accurate and a very good survey that was done. And it surveyed, is it more expensive to rent or own in each state across the US? And what the turnout was here was that in 38, so all the blue, in 38 of our 50 states, it was less to own rather than rent. And in 6 of the 12 states where it was, say, more expensive, it was only more expensive by $50, or within $50 a month. So, I mean, if you ask me, $50 a month to have my own place, and I don't have to worry about a landlord, and I can make it my own, I think that would be a good use of $50. So, most places across the US, when you factor in, you're paying down a mortgage, tax benefit, which Bill will touch a little bit more on here, future appreciation and what's projected and what historically we've seen as far as home prices appreciating, that over the course of a mortgage, buying now compared to renting, certainly more affordable. That's all I got. Anyone have any quick questions or concerns before we bring up Bill, and he can talk a little bit more as far as the buying versus renting?
How much does it cost to have a conversation with you or sit down with you to get pre-qualified?
Great question. So cost obligation free. If anyone would like to chat, have questions, have a particular question, want to know something about the information that I shared here, please call, text, email, send a smoke signal. Cost obligation free, and happy to chat.
I wanted to talk about the importance of your lender for a second. So Keith, right now, how long have you been in the business?
14 years.
14 years. So I think you probably have it figured out. Keith's got a stellar reputation in this town, and I wanted to point out why that's so important. When I'm negotiating your offer for a home, and I use some, 123.com, and they have a printed out pre-qualification letter from the internet, the agents on the other side and the sellers that are contemplating different offers in case there is a multiple offer situation, they're really going to lean towards a local trusted lender that everybody in town knows. Like I said, with a stellar reputation, the agent on the other side is going to say, I trust Keith. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I would suggest you seriously, strongly consider this offer over this offer, because we know that Keith can get the deals closed. So when the seller feels more comfortable and confident that that deal is going to go through smoothly, sometimes they're willing to negotiate a tad bit more, be a little bit more flexible in some of the terms and conditions. So that's really important. Also, when you're looking at homes, sometimes agents will not let you in the homes until they have pre-approvals. They say, listen, I don't want you to waste my time if I'm gonna meet you there to show a home or have my seller clean a home or have the maid come before. It's really important we have a pre-approval letter from a lender. And then that way we can provide that to the other listing agent. They'll feel awesome saying, oh, it's Keith, great. I want this buyer to come into the house. You guys understand how that might work? That makes sense? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Keith. So I want to bring up Bill Friedman. Come on up here, Bill. Very close friend of mine, my CPA, my trusted advisor, like I told you before. Bill, how long have you been in the business?
33 years. I'm older than a lot of people, more than some of these people are.
That's why I couldn't wait to ask that question. Well, here's your clicker. You don't have any slides.
I don't have any slides.
All right,
They're just getting me today.
All right, I'm gonna leave this in the background.
You can go up more and it pulls up his information.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
All right, I'll hang on to this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hillary. Lindsay Schlick, was it Schlick Artist? Yeah, touch up on that one too. I was asked to come here and talk about in detail the amount of money you will save by deducting your principal, your mortgage interest, and your property taxes. By taking that tax deduction and lowering that from your out-of-pocket expenses, will that actually be less than actually if you pay rent? And in almost all circumstances, it does work out better to buy. Rare circumstances, it doesn't, but I can't really go over in detail with you right now because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's in a different tax bracket. Everybody's loan amounts are going to be different. Everybody's interest rates might be even a little bit different. So, but generally speaking, and I think our mortgage advisor just showed us that you can actually, when you take your mortgage payments and after you take your deductions, your net out-of-pocket expense is right around the same or sometimes even lower than renting. So it absolutely, in my mind, makes absolutely no sense. If there's any way you can get into purchasing, you have to do it. Because beyond that, the savings are tremendous. The real benefits of home ownership are the long-term benefits, both economically and tax advantages that come with home ownership. And a couple things I wanted to talk about are the biggest tax break that I see out there with home ownership is the home gain exclusion, the capital gain exclusion of selling your principal residence. Now, I have a couple of handouts that I was going to hand out here, but it's kind of dark in here, so you wouldn't be able to see them anyway. So they're up on the counter by the front office over there. And there's one on itemized deductions for homeowners and the sale of a principal residence and the tax benefits. So my name, telephone number's on there. Rather than go over the detail again, like I said, I will offer to anybody in this room today, if you want to sit down with me and let me pencil out the actual amount of savings you'll have from deducting your income tax on your income tax returns, your mortgage interest, and your property taxes, and show you what your net after tax would be versus renting. I'll sit down with anybody in here and I'll do it absolutely free. So give me a call, schedule that appointment, and I'll offer that service to you in this room right now. So because I don't want to really talk about the detail, I want to talk about the long-term benefits, as I said before. When you buy a home and you mortgage it, you have a forced savings plan that's in place because you have to make that payment every year or you're going to lose the house. Every month you're going to lose the house. Every single month you're paying principal. It's a concept I'm sure everybody's familiar with here, but what you probably aren't thinking about is after 10, 20 years of ownership and this principal's way down, even if your home hasn't even gone up 1% at all, and you sell for exactly what you bought it for, you still have built-in equity in the home in some, almost as much as the loan. If you wait 30 years, you own a home free and clear. Now you sell it for the same amount. There's no tax on the gain because you didn't have a gain, but you actually are getting back all that money that you paid when you sell it, and that's tax-free as well because it's just a return of your principal on the loan that you took out to buy the house. So basically, it's forced you to save that money. You get it back at the end, and it's tax-free. The other end of that is the appreciation you're getting. And I think you talked about it earlier about it's projected at, I think what I saw today was the national average is about 3%, but in Santa Clarita, it's been 6.8% over the last 6 years. So when you got that appreciation building up every year, your mortgage going down every year, you can be earning as much as 10% annually on your investment of purchasing that house. And the beauty of it is, it's completely tax-free. You take that money if you're renting, and some people say, you know, homeownership isn't always that great. If you rent, you can move around freely and, you know, go wherever you want to go and take the savings in your monthly payment and invest it wisely. Well, first of all, how many people are that regimented that they're going to invest that money wisely each month because they're paying less in rent? No, we're going to go out and we're going to up our lifestyle and we're going to spend it on fun stuff, and it's not going to be there. That's where the forced savings come into play. You buy your house, you're stuck making that payment over a long period of time, building equity in your own house. You don't get that when you rent. The rules for excluding this gain of the appreciation are, as long as you live in your home and own it 2 of the last 5 years, when you go to sell your home, you can exclude up to a $500,000 gain. Well, very few people can earn that kind of a gain in that short period of time, but even if you own it 10 or 15 years, it goes up $500,000. That gain is tax-free when you sell it, plus all the money you're getting back because of the buy down of the principal on your loan you're getting back at the end of the game too. So the money is really growing much faster than if you take it and rent something, invest it. Every year when you invest it in something, if you're investing in stocks or bonds or other type of capital assets, when you sell those assets, you're paying capital gains tax. So it's going to grow it's going to grow less fast. Yes?
Good question. So I was fortunate enough to buy my first house in 2014 when the rates were really low. Haven't touched the equity I have in there. I know for a fact, based on the graph that he showed, that I can rent it out probably more than what my mortgage payment is. What tax implications would I have, obviously, if I'm getting back more than what I'm paying, if any?
So you're talking about if you take the principal residence and turn it into a rental property?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. My current residence, rental property, buy somewhere.
That's beyond the scope of what I was planning to talk about, but generally,
Right.
you're going to pay taxes on any net income you have, but when you start renting out a home that's not your personal residence anymore, there's other deductions that come into play that now you're allowed to take, like the depreciation of the home. You're allowed to now take a deduction for your utilities, any kind of repairs you make to it. Those type of things are not normally taxable if it's your personal residence. If it's a rental property, oftentimes you don't show any net income every year. Even though you might be getting cash flow, the depreciation of the property on the tax return offsets that that income, and you don't pay any taxes. But if you want to come sit down with me and go over that, I'll give you a more detailed explanation on that. I wasn't really prepared to talk about rental properties, but actually I will kind of touch up on it in a minute, because I'm going to give you a real life story that I just encountered that involves somebody who has rental properties and the amount of gain they have. That there's a tax issue now, and how I'm going to try to save them. But well, I'm going to jump into that right now since you brought that up. I have a cleaning lady that comes to my house every week and cleans my house, and I sit there and I watch how hard she works every week, and I feel really, really bad for her all the time. I see her on her hands and knees scrubbing the toilets and the showers, and I really feel bad for her. And she drives a beat up pickup truck, and I know she lives in Alhambra, and she drives far out here every week to clean my house. And we pay her pretty well, but I judged something improperly. I really feel bad about this. I just assumed, that she didn't have a lot of money because she was cleaning my house, working to the bone, and was sweating and driving a beat up pickup truck. And then she came to me and said, "Mr. Friedman, will you do my taxes this year?" And she's been doing the cleaning of my house for 12 years now. It was the first time she asked me to do her taxes. So I got together with her and I got her tax returns, and I looked through the tax return and I said, "You have 3 rental properties, you own your own home, and you have your cleaning business." I go, "Why are you cleaning my house?" And she goes, "Why do you say that?" I go, "Well, I can tell you don't have any mortgages on these homes because there's no mortgage interest deduction on your tax return." She goes, "Yeah, I paid those off a long time ago." She had them for over 30 years. They were in Los Angeles, Alhambra, so she got them 30 years ago in distressed times, and probably, they were pretty low probably at that time. I went on Zillow and I started looking at the values of the 4 properties she owns. She has $2.5 million in rental properties and her home together with almost no mortgage. She has more money than most of the people that I hang out with. And I mean, it's kind of a funny story because, you know, I judged somebody improperly. I shouldn't have done that. But she doesn't understand why she doesn't need to keep working this hard. You know, you're getting older. She's close to 60 now. She goes, yeah, but my husband's sick. I got to keep working and I got to take care of him. I go, why aren't you selling a property and you know, take some of that money? Well, I'm afraid to pay the taxes because everybody says you're going to pay a lot of taxes. And she's just been afraid to really ask anybody. And, you know, she really, you know, she's got a great work ethic, and that's why she's been able to pay down these properties from all these years. She's had renters. But now I'm going to sit down with her and explain to her how the taxes don't have to be such a big obstacle for her. The first thing she needs to know is that she's got a $500,000 capital gain exclusion in a personal residence. And so if we can sell the personal residence, she can put all that money in the bank, and she can move into one of her rental properties. They're all close to where she lives to begin with. She moves into a rental property, she stays there for 2 years. She can then turn around and sell that rental property and exclude another $500,000 and do it again and again. In 8 years, she can sell all 4 properties and not pay any taxes at all. And there lies, I think, the biggest tax benefit of home ownership is the long-term tax effects of owning homes. The biggest tax breaks in the code right now are to homeowners that have big gains. And the capital gain exclusion, there's nothing else that you can do to earn $500,000 and not pay taxes on it. The only way to do that is to sell a property with equity on it. And that's probably the best thing to take away from here today, is that the long-term effects of owning homes, meaning you need to get into them now. Don't wait, because the longer you own the homes, the better tax benefits you're going to have. And that's probably the best thing I can leave you guys with, other than a really quick little tidbit. In Santa Clarita, I don't know if anybody knows what the biggest industry in Santa Clarita is right now. Does anybody take a guess?
Studios.
Yep, the entertainment industry. Filmmaking and obviously Magic Mountain. It's the #1 industry here. There are so many people out there looking for homes to use to film at. And I've seen on my block several times a month that somebody's filming on my block. You can rent out your house 14 days a year, absolutely tax-free. People don't realize that. And a lot of accountants don't even understand that sometimes, and they get a 1099 from the studios, and they just stick it on the tax return, they pay taxes on it. But if you know the rules, if it's your primary residence, and you rent it out for less than 14 days or less, it's tax-free. So another benefit of home ownership, you can get 1, 2, some houses $3,000 a day. At 14 days, add it up, 28 grand for $2,000 a day, tax-free. That's a great thing. So not only buy your home, but hook up with one of I think they're called Home Scouts out here. There's several organizations out here that come out. They'll tell you what you need to do to attract the studios out. And not it's not just the houses with the big beautiful backyards or everything. They have many homes and many different types of homes they need to film at. So it's just another tidbit I thought I'd give you. This was supposed to be interactive. I know I got one question. Is there anything else that anybody else wants to ask me?
Great information.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit what we were talking about earlier, how after the 24,000 it kicks in? Because a lot of the homes out here are more than 500,000.
Right.
Yeah, let's be honest. There's 750, 900 is normal out here these days. So after the deduction, can you explain that just so?
Well, before this new tax law went into effect, actually January 1st, 2018, you were able to write off all your property taxes and all your mortgage interest. And a lot of people that were employees had out-of-pocket employee business expenses. And so you had you could claim the higher of your standard deduction or your itemized deductions on your tax return. For a married couple, the standard deduction was $12,000. It was easy to get over $12,000. If you owned a home, the property taxes alone are sometimes upwards of $12,000. Mortgages add on to that. You got a really good tax write-off on your tax return. And that was the days where, I can sit there and show you mortgage interest of $20,000, property taxes of $10,000, $30,000 times your tax bracket of maybe 33%. You're saving $10,000 a year from owning your home in taxes, divide that by 12 and lower that off your mortgage payment, and it comes out lower than your rent check. So it's changed dramatically as of January 1st. They doubled the standard deduction. So it was $12,000, now it's $24,000. So, and then they curbed the amount of mortgage interest you can write off up to $750,000. So, you know, between $500,000 and $750,000 in loan, what you're talking about, if it's a 4 or 5% interest rate, you're looking at $20,000 write-off. 8 or 9,000 real estate tax at 29, but now you got a $24,000 standard deduction. So the incremental amount of deduction you have is only 4 or 5,000 now. That's your additional tax savings for owning a home. So it's not as good as it was before. But another way to think about it is, yeah, maybe you're not getting additional money because you own the home, but you're getting a lower tax anyways because you got $24,000 standard deduction now. That's more money in your pocket, which might help you afford a home now.
That's where I was.
That's what you wanted to get at. Yeah, if anybody wants to go over any of what I said in more detail, feel free to give me a call. Anybody in this room, I will give at least a free half-hour consultation. No problem.
What are we doing with bonds and Melrose taxes? Are we writing that off these days?
No, well, you want me to tell you, we're on film, right?
Tell us what you,
The
real rules are. Tell us what people are doing.
real property taxes are deductible. Melrose taxes have never been deductible. When somebody came into a CPA and had their taxes done, the CPA would merely ask, how much do you pay in property taxes? They would give them the amount that includes the Melrose, because it's all in one payment, and they would deduct the whole thing. In 33 years of practice, I've never had the IRS audit my clients for their real estate taxes. They probably could have, but they never did. So I don't think they wanted to make an issue out of it, but technically you're not allowed to write off Melrose. Well, now it doesn't matter anymore because they've curbed the amount of tax write-off you can have for property tax. The combination of your property taxes and your state income taxes you pay is limited to $10,000 deduction on your federal return. So you're going to get there really quickly, even without if you make $100,000 a year, or say that by a couple $100,000 a year, you're going to pay $10,000 in California taxes already. So you're not even really going to get to write off your real estate taxes anymore because they're limiting it. So you didn't want me to say that here today.
No, I wanted to teach people. I need to make sure everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys? All right, let's give Bill a hand.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. All right, where are we at? Let's turn this thing back on. You guys learning anything today? Want to go to tidbits, Vincenzo? I love that. All right, so now we're going to talk about the real estate agent side of this a little bit. See what I got next here. I talked a little about in the beginning of why our team will make a difference when you are purchasing a property. And I just wanted to go over a couple of these things. When we say we're a team, what that means is we all work together out of the same office. We're not, we're tied to, how do I say that? We're tied together as far as I'm not the broker of the team, but Tammy and I are kind of the team leaders, and then we are doing everything possible to give the team the tools, the technology, and the ability to do things that other agents can or won't. So let's put it this way, a normal real estate agent will go out there and say, I'm gonna go show houses today. Well, that particular agent has a lot of other things going on. Maybe they sold another couple houses in the weeks before. So they're worried about paperwork for those clients they're worried about all these different stuff that goes part of the transaction that we'll breeze over in a minute. So when we actually work as a team, everybody has their own job. So if you choose any one of our agents to work with, they're dedicated to you, and all they have to do is find your house and negotiate the transaction, and that just frees them up to do all the things necessary to find you the property. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. List of off-market properties. Would you guys agree that in the last several years we've had an inventory problem? Yeah, right? So when I was back selling homes in the early 90s in Santa Clarita, when it was half the size of this, the average home, or the average amount of homes on the market was somewhere between 12 and 1,500. That was completely normal. In the last 4 to 5 years, we've had less than 500 homes on the market at all times. And what drives me insane is that even includes condos, Agua Dulce and Acton, and Valverde, those areas that sometimes we don't think about of the incorporated part of Santa Clarita. So finding homes, it used to be like, hey, let's just go in the computer, look for homes, we'll all jump in the car and go find them. Well, that's not the real estate agent's job anymore. The real estate agent's job is to find homes that are not on the market. And we'll talk about that in a second as well. Let me breeze through this. And that's what? Larry. Come on up here, Larry. So Larry Fleischman's going to go over this slide. And in just a few minutes, we'll bring Tammy up and we'll introduce the whole team at once. But thank you very much for preparing this slide. Larry's on our team, and he helped put this slide together. He's going to present it. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Wow, that was huge ovation. All right, so we're coming down to the home stretch, everybody, but thank you so much again for coming. We want to talk at this time a little bit about why do you want to work with a real estate professional. I'll take it a step further. Why do you want to work with a Team Bjorkman real estate professional? So the slide that you see here are some of the traditional kind of questions that a real estate agent is going to ask to try and find you a home. Where do you want to live? How big a house do you want? How many beverages? In case anybody wants to know what we're doing after this event, how many bedrooms do you want? What features don't you want? These are important things to know, but with Team Bjorkman, we're going to dive in deeper because we need to know, why are these things important to you? What is it that's driving you to desire these things in a home? And why is that so important? Well, we're going to go above and beyond to find you a home. We're going to do things that other agents can't or won't. And we need to know what's driving you in order to do that. We go to extreme measures to find homes for our clients. As Mike said, the inventory is extremely limited. So if you go on one of these internet sites and think that you're going to find the home of your dreams, it's going to be very challenging because you're going to see these things. We work very hard to know all of the inventory that's in town. And so, why is that critical to you? Because when I say extreme measures, you might say, hey Larry, I saw this house on this website, can we go see it? And in my mind, I'm going to say, you know what? I know 3 other houses that match what you're looking for that I want to take you to see. You have no idea that they're there, you're unaware, and it's my job as your advisor to get you into the houses that meet what you're looking for. This is probably the biggest purchase that most people are going to make in their lives. And the entire team, we take this very, very seriously, that we need to make sure that we are finding you your dream home. So we're going to take you to places that you might not have thought of, and you might have thought, oh, I'm not going to go there, and then we take you there. And it's very interesting because 75% of people who buy homes now end up buying a home that they never thought that they were going to buy. So that's very critical. So it's really important that you're working with an agent that you trust and that you know is knowledgeable in the area. Now, when I say knowledgeable, at Team Bjorkman, we go out and we preview properties for 2 hours every day. Why is that important? Well, as I said a few minutes ago, if you bring up a house that you saw in the newspaper, on Zillow, whatever, I need to know to tell you every other property that's similar to that might meet what you're looking for. So in addition to that, it's important, as Mike alluded to a little bit earlier, to talk about properties that are not even on the market. They're not available. And I'm going to touch just for a quick second on what you see online. What you see online when you're looking for a home, it's almost like the leftovers. Because the real estate agents, as Mike alluded to, we're out there networking with one another on a regular basis. We know what's coming on the market well before it hits the internet, which is oftentimes a week or so longer than before it hits the market. So we're able to give you a competitive advantage to find the home before anybody else has even seen it. Does that sound like it's something that's worthwhile in purchasing a home?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the ways that we do this is, number one, we network with other agents. Here in the Santa Clarita Valley, we're part of a few different groups. One group, there are over 200 agents in that we're networking with regularly to find out what inventory is available. Another group that we network with on a weekly basis, about 20 of the top agents in Santa Clarita. And when I say the top agents, these agents do about 50% of all the business in Santa Clarita. We are with them every week to know what's coming on the market, what's available before anybody else does. It's really, really important in getting people in a home to have that advantage. We also have established relationship with hedge fund and asset managers. Now these are the folks that control distressed properties, right? So when they go out and they become available in this manner, we want them on our short sale, on our foreclosure radar. We need to know it's coming, so when we're working with people and we need things in a certain area, in a certain range, we know it's here, we're able to deliver. And for sale by owners and make me move. So just different ways that we have to get properties that are not on the market. Now, another thing that we do regularly is we go to neighborhoods where our clients are interested and we door knock. Okay, sometimes we have listings. We go out and tell all the neighbors what's going on, and we find people who are interested in selling their home. We've recently had a client in a beach community that wanted a home in a certain area. We were on the phone, we found them a home to match their needs, and we sold them a home. We're currently working with a number of clients in this area that have specific needs and areas they want to get into. We're knocking on doors, we're making phone calls, we're finding those properties. As a matter of fact, we showed a couple today to these people who are looking for these things that are not being seen by anybody
I have a
else.
question.
Yes.
What are the risks of buying a home that's in a short sale or foreclosure?
Similar risk to any other property. So, a lot of times people have a mindset of short sale being a problem property, but in all honesty, short sales, it's just someone that's behind their payment. Good people having trouble, they're ready to get out of their home.
Are they as-is properties though?
Any property you buy in the state of California is as-is property. Yeah, so important question, thank you.
Can I jump in on that?
Absolutely.
So any property, the standard purchase agreement states that it is as is, but it's our job as your real estate professional to negotiate for you a repair request, to make sure that if there's anything that needs to be addressed, we address it for you. We do that through a home inspection, there's other inspections we can do in addition.
So are the inspections the same protocol as a home being sold by an owner? Like
Absolutely.
Same
You
procedure?
have the right to any and all inspections.
And Jessica's going to touch on that in a minute, but that's, when you said even a home that's for sale by owner, that's why it's so important to work with a real estate professional that understands how to protect you in all of those transactions. It's really, really important. And then just one other way that we stay on top of what's available is we work with leasing companies out here. Our sister company, Mike talked about it earlier, California Leasing. It gives us the insight and the opportunity to get homes to you before anybody else does. And it's just a critical part of finding a home in today's market when the inventory is so low, to find someone that's going to work on your behalf and get out there. So that's about finding homes. Once you find a home, I'm going to bring Jessica up and let her talk about the next steps.
Thank you. I'm going to bring you home to the home stretch. So let's go forward. Okay, so now that you've met with a real estate professional, they found your property, your dream home, you're thinking, what's next? So this part is where it's really key to work with a great agent like we have here at Team Bjorkman, and that is that we sit down with you to look at the comps, which are the homes in the area that have recently sold, that are on the market, that have basically matched the criteria of the home that you're interested in. And that's so that we can find and make sure that the purchase price of that home is accurate, so that you're not overpaying and for that home. The other thing is that with the extensive networking and relationships that we here at Team Bjorkman have done, we negotiate your offers. Agents want to work with people at Team Bjorkman because of the fact that they know that our offer is going to go through. We've vetted our buyers. We've had them working with great lenders. So that's some part of what we do here when we go to negotiating. And then once your offer is accepted, we go to the key factors of what it does to your due diligence of purchasing a property, which is your home inspection and making sure that everything's great with the property. As Tammy alluded to earlier, we're there to protect you, guide you through the process so that you're completely aware of all the disclosures and anything that happens to be coming with that property. And then we negotiate those repair requests for you with either credits or having the repairs completed. And then lastly, we do contingency removals, and a contingency is in the purchase contract, and it's there to protect you as a buyer. Contingencies are things such as a home inspection, a loan contingency, making sure that you can afford the loan once the paperwork goes through. And then after that, we kind of go to your final walkthrough and the closing. Now, when it comes to purchasing a property and you go into doing those aspects, there are some costs that are incurred. Of those costs, the first one would be your home inspection, and that is paid out of pocket up front. And the other is the home appraisal that goes towards the loan, which is something that you would pay out of pocket. Both of these together, on average, are anywhere from $700 to $1,000 that you'd be paying out of pocket. Additional costs that come outside of the purchase price of a home would basically be your closing costs. And as you recall, when Keith was up here, he discussed how there were ways to tie those into the loan, have the seller pay for those. These are just some of the items that are involved in closing costs. And so of these items, they have nothing to do with the buyer's commission. And sometimes people think, oh, closing costs is a buyer agent's commission. It is not. You have nothing to worry about as a buyer. You do not pay the buyer's commission. An agent is paid for it based off of the seller side aspect of it. So if you have an agent out there that's telling you, hey, you need to pay me so I can show you property, or you need to pay some sort of fee, run and come to Team Bjorkman. And now I'm going to pass it off to some very key pointers of things that you want to make sure that you keep in mind when purchasing a property. And Tammy's going to kind of close this through. So Tammy, if you want to come up.
I don't think I need this, right?
There's one more slide to bring into this.
Okay. So the top 10 deadliest mistakes that home buyers make during this process. Number one is working with a part-time agent. Mike did touch on the fact that we all know about 5 to 10 agents. Most of them are not full-time agents. They got their license to sell homes to their friends and family when they popped up. That is not who you want to work with, because they don't know first of all, they don't know the new rules and laws, and they're not going to protect you from a lawsuit, and they're not going to protect you in purchasing a home without defects and all those things. You just don't want to do that. Number 2 is making an offer without being pre-qualified. Nobody will look at an offer that doesn't have a pre-qualification. Not understanding the total cost involved. I am in a situation right now with a seller that had interviewed agents prior to interviewing with me. Well, they opened up with the other agent, but hadn't quite opened up with me completely about the fact that they had what's called a hero loan on the property. Well, this hero loan needs to be paid off at the sale of the property, but the other agent that they interviewed had told them that they would pass that off to the buyer. So now we're in a short sale situation because it was a huge hero loan. So you have to understand the total cost involved, and you have to make sure that your real estate agent knows what costs are actually involved and what are your costs. Limiting your search to the internet, open houses, or ads. Any home that makes it to the internet is generally, like Larry had said, just kind of the bad stepchild that didn't get picked up before, because the good stuff usually goes long before it ever hits the market. Open houses, again, those are generally homes that were, the leftovers. So you want to work with someone that's going to get you into a home before it gets to that point. Thinking there's only one perfect home, that is a big, big mistake that people have, is they put up these barriers and they don't open up their minds to what's really out there. And you need to trust your real estate professional to kind of go to, humor them a little bit. Go see what they want to show you, because you very well might find something that you like that you didn't know you like. Not considering your long-term needs. I so many times will work with buyers that have children that are 11th and 12th grade, and they're like, I need this space for my kids, and I'm like, your kids are leaving and you're going to be alone in this big 5,000 square foot house. So you have to think long-term. Not doing your due diligence, and that again has a lot to do with your agent too, making sure that you know what your due diligence should be. Going to new construction without an agent. This is a huge one. So many people think that they can go check into new construction and they come back to your agent and say, I found the house, I need you to go in and represent me. Well, the second you go into new construction without your agent, we can no longer represent you. You are on your own. Now, does anyone in this room think that there is any good reason why they would want us to stay away? No. They don't want us there because we protect you. Sometimes we get you closing costs, sometimes we get you some extra washer and dryer, refrigerator, whatever. We can negotiate on new construction, but you going in there as just a client, you don't know that, and they will completely walk all over you. So you definitely want an agent with you to go out to new construction. This one's my favorite one, listening to family members or friends over your real estate professional. A lot of times moms and dads think that they know everything about real estate because they bought a house in 1975, and it is absolutely the very worst thing you can do is listen to them. You need to trust your real estate professional. We know what we're doing. There's a reason why we sell over 150 homes consistently for over 20 years, because we take care of our clients. It's not because we're good salespeople. It's because we care, and people trust us, and they know that we care about you, our clients. So you have to trust us over your family. This is probably a tie with my two favorite ones. Worrying more about getting a deal than about getting the home of your dreams. Again, 150 homes a year, about 80 to 100 of those are sellers for me. And never once have I had someone say to me, wow, we overpaid for this house, or our interest rate was too high, or I should have offered them $20,000 below. No, what I hear is about the memories and the love. And there's no price you can put on home ownership and what it means to you at the end of the day. When I hold a woman who's crying because she's walking out of the home in which she raised her children in for the last 15 years, that's what's important, the memories that you build in a home. And when you own a home, there's nothing greater in this world than having your own place. No one can take that from you. So if you're looking for a deal, you're looking for a home for the wrong reason. You need a home because it's yours. It's where you build your memories. It's where you raise your family. It's where you love. It's where you cry. It's where you hurt. It's where you celebrate. It's everything. So if you have an opportunity to buy a home, I suggest you do it for the right reasons, because nobody can ever take your memories from you. And I will end this with, I have a child that won the lottery. She was very young when she won the lottery, and she had a big chunk of money. And she went to my stepfather, who's a financial advisor, and she said, okay, I want to invest this money. And he looked at her and he said, absolutely not. He said, you go buy a home, and you buy a home right now. He said, because no one can take your home from you. If you have a home, you have everything. So that's where I will leave it. Is there one more from here, Jessica?
One more.
Oh, yay!
Awesome.